The sun was setting on the alien world of Varelia, casting soft purple light over the tall crystal trees. The air felt cool as Ryan Carter, a young human engineer, walked back to his small house near the spaceport. Ryan had come from Earth 6 months ago to help the Varelians fix their old space station. Varelians were tall, graceful aliens with silver skin and soft glowing eyes. They treated Ryan well, but he often felt like an outsider. That evening, as Ryan reached his door, he saw a tall figure waiting for him. It was matriarch Jeria, the leader of Varelia. She rarely spoke to humans, so Ryan felt nervous. "Good evening, matriarch," Ryan said politely. Jeria nodded slowly. Her voice was calm but powerful. "Ryan Carter, I have a request for you." Ryan stood straight. "Yes, matriarch. I'll do my best." Jeria's eyes looked into his, serious but kind. "From this night onward, every night a visitor will come to your house. You must open your door. You must not refuse them, no matter who they are." Ryan blinked. I understand. But may I ask why?" Jeria gave a soft smile. "You will understand when the time is right. Just remember, do not turn them away." And without another word, the matriarch walked away, her long robe flowing. Like water, that night, Ryan sat in his small living room. The sky outside turned dark, and the moons of Varelia shone brightly. He kept looking at the door. At exactly 8 o'clock, there was a soft knock. Ryan stood up, heart beating faster. He opened the door. A tall, thin Varelian stood outside, wore long robes, and held a book in his hand. "Good evening," the visitor said softly. "May I come in?" Ryan nodded, of course. "Come in." The Varelian stepped inside and looked around. "I am Thalon, a scholar." "I heard you have human books." Ryan smiled a little. "Yes, I have a few." Thalon sat on a chair and opened one of Ryan's old Earth books. For an hour they sat in silence, Ryan sipping tea, Thalon reading. Finally, Thalon closed the book, stood up, and bowed slightly. "Thank you. I will come again another time." Ryan nodded. "Any time." Thalon walked out into the night, and Ryan sat down, feeling strange but peaceful. The next night, the same soft knock came. This time, it was a young Varelian soldier, wearing simple armor. "Good evening," she said. "I'm Sira. May I come in?" Ryan opened the door wide. "Yes, come in." Sira sat down and asked for water.
"Yes."
As Ryan brought it, she asked questions about Earth soldiers, how they trained, why they fought. Ryan answered honestly. They talked for an hour. Then Sira stood up. "Thank you," she said. "You are different." She left with a small smile. Night after night, visitors came. A merchant who asked about human trade. A pilot who wanted to hear about Earth's skies. A farmer who asked about Earth's crops. Ryan welcomed them all. At first he thought it was some kind of cultural custom. Maybe the Varelians had a habit of visiting guests as a way of learning. But slowly, Ryan noticed something strange. All the visitors asked questions about Earth, not about machines or tools, but about humans. How they thought, what they believed, how they lived with others. It was almost like they were testing him. One evening after a visitor left, Ryan sat alone, staring at the door. He whispered to himself, "What is going on? Why are they coming to me?" But no answer came from the silent night. All Ryan knew was this: the matriarch had ordered him not to refuse. And deep inside, he felt this was only the beginning. The days passed slowly on Varelia. But the nights became something Ryan never expected. Every night, exactly at 8 o'clock, a soft knock would sound at his door. Every night, a new visitor would enter. They never stayed too long. They never caused trouble. They always asked questions, strange questions. One evening, a Varelian merchant named Kale arrived. He was tall, with sharp eyes and soft silver skin. "Good evening, human," Kale said with a respectful nod. "I come in." Ryan opened the door wide. "Please?" Kale sat on the wooden chair beside the window. "I have traded on many worlds," Kale began, "but never with humans. Tell me, what is your kind value in trade?" Ryan thought for a moment. We trade for trust and fairness. Not just for profit. Kale raised an eyebrow. Trust? Strange. But interesting. They spoke for an hour about business, honesty, and human customs. Kale left with a thoughtful look. The next night, a Varelian pilot named Zara arrived. She wore a light flight suit and carried a helmet under her arm. She smiled slightly. May I enter? Ryan nodded. Of course. Zara sat near the small table. Okay. I have flown across many galaxies. Tell me, how do humans feel when they first fly? Ryan smiled at the memory. We feel free, like the sky belongs to everyone. Zara leaned back, silent for a moment. I see, you fly with your heart. She left after some tea, leaving Ryan, wondering what that meant. The next night, a Varelian farmer named Dren visited. He looked simple, with rough hands and kind eyes. May I? Dren asked at the door. Ryan welcomed him in. Dren sat quietly for a while, then asked, Your people? How do they treat the land? Ryan answered honestly. We try to take care of it. We grow, we harvest. But we also try to protect nature. Dren nodded slowly. A farmer must respect the ground he walks on, or he loses everything. He spoke softly about the earth's seasons, rains, and crops. Then Dren left with a silent bow. By now, Ryan started to notice a pattern. These were not random visitors. Each of them came from a different walk of life. A scholar, soldier, a merchant, a pilot, a farmer. They all asked about human nature. Kindness, honesty, dreams, respect. None asked about weapons, wars, or power. They wanted to know what was inside the heart of a human. One evening, Ryan spoke to Thalon, the scholar, who had returned for another visit. Thalon. Can I ask? Something, Ryan said carefully. The scholar looked up from the book. Of course. Why are all these people coming to me? What are they really looking for? Thalon closed the book and smiled softly. We are looking for the truth, Ryan Carter. Ryan frowned. The truth? Yes, Thalon said calmly. Our matriarch believes your kind holds something special, something the galaxy has forgotten. Ryan's heart beat faster. What is that? Thalon stood, placing the book back on the shelf. We'll know when it's time. And with a bow, Thalon left, his words hanging in the air. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He sat by the window watching the silver stars above. What is this really about? He whispered to himself. It wasn't just visits. It wasn't a simple test. It felt like something bigger, maybe a quiet search for trust or hope. But Ryan knew one thing for sure. This was not a game. Something important was happening. And he was right in the middle of it. The next night came, just like before. The sky was dark, and soft silver light from the twin moons filled the air at exactly 8 o'clock. A gentle knock echoed on Ryan's door. He stood up, but this time his heart was calm. He opened the door and saw a new visitor, a tall female Varelian artist named Lyra. She carried a small sketchbook in her hand and wore a long robe with soft colors like the sunset. Good evening, Lyra said in a soft voice. May I come in? Ryan smiled gently. Of course. Please come in. Lyra sat on the chair near the fireplace. She opened her sketchbook and began drawing without saying a word. Ryan watched quietly. The soft scratching of her pencil was the only sound in the room. After a while, Lyra spoke without looking up. Do humans paint their feelings? She asked. Ryan thought for a moment. Yes, many artists show feelings through colors and pictures. Lyra nodded. What about pain and hope? Ryan leaned forward slightly. We paint those too, sometimes even more than happiness. Lyra finally looked up, her eyes shining gently. And why do you do that? Ryan answered softly. Because even when we feel pain, we want others to understand. We want them to know they are not alone. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled and closed her sketchbook. Thank you, she whispered. I think that is what we wanted to know. Ryan felt a soft warmth in his chest. "Lyra," he said gently, "why are you all really coming here? Euthalon, Sira? Kale, all of you." Lyra stood up slowly. She looked at him kindly. "Our matriarch believes humans have something special, but she also knows words can lie, but actions and hearts cannot." Ryan frowned slightly. "So, I'm being tested." Lyra shook her head gently. "Not tested. You are being known. We came to feel your heart." She placed a hand softly on her chest. "We needed to know if humans care, if they hope, if they still believe in others." Ryan stood silent. He did not know what to say. Lyra bowed lightly. "Thank you for showing us who you are." Like the others before her, she walked quietly into the night. Ryan sat down slowly after she left. The fire crackled softly. He whispered, "They're trying to understand. Humans, not weapons. Not power. Not even knowledge. They wanted to know the heart of mankind." The next day, while working at the spaceport, Ryan noticed something. Varelians, who used to pass by without a word, now nodded at him. Some even smiled. They treated him with more respect, like he was more than just a worker. Ryan felt something changing.
Not just with him.
But with all of Aurelia, that evening, Ryan sat waiting before the knock came. This time, he was ready. And right at 8 o'clock, the knock sounded again. But when he opened the door, no one was there. Instead, a small folded note lay on the ground. He picked it up and opened it carefully. The words inside were simple. "Soon, the matriarch will come. Be ready." Ryan's heart beat faster. The matriarch was coming to his home. What did this mean? Why him? That night's sleep did not come easily. Ryan sat by the window, staring at the stars. He remembered all the visitors, the scholar who read his books, the soldier who asked about courage, the merchant who talked of trust, the pilot who spoke of dreams, the farmer who cared for the land, the artist who painted hope. They weren't testing him. They were learning about humans through him, and somehow, Ryan felt proud. Whatever was coming next, he knew one thing. He would open the door with an open heart. The sun was setting again on the world of Varelia. The sky turned a soft purple, and 2 moons shone above the crystal trees. Ryan Carter sat by his small table, staring at the door. He knew who was coming tonight. Not a scholar, not a soldier, not a merchant, not a pilot, not a farmer. Tonight, it would be matriarch Jeria herself. At exactly 8 o'clock, the knock came. It was soft but strong, like a leader's voice. Ryan stood up slowly and walked to the door. His hands felt cold, but his heart was calm. He opened the door. Standing there was Jeria, the matriarch of Varelia. She wore a long silver robe, her eyes shining like soft stars. "Good evening, Ryan Carter," she said kindly. "May I come in?" Ryan stepped aside. "Please, you are always welcome." Jeria entered and sat on the chair by the window. Ryan sat across from her, waiting. For a moment, they both sat in silence. Then Jeria spoke softly. "You opened your door to my people." "Every night," Ryan nodded. "Yes, you asked me to." Jeria smiled slightly. "And you never refused. Not once." Ryan looked at her with honest eyes. "I gave my word. I kept it." Jeria nodded again. "Do you know why I asked this of you?" Ryan shook his head gently. "I thought maybe it was a test or a tradition." The matriarch's eyes softened. "It was neither." She leaned forward slightly. "Our world stands at a choice, great crossroad." Ryan listened carefully. Jeria continued. "For centuries, Varelia lived in peace.
Alone.
We feared the galaxy, its wars, its greed, its lies." She paused. "But then humans came." Ryan stayed silent, waiting for her words. Jeria looked at him with a deep gaze. "Some of us feared you. Others hoped. I believed you might be different." Ryan finally spoke. "Different. How?" Jeria answered, her voice soft but firm. I believed humans carried something rare, a heart that does not seek power, but friendship, a will that does not break, even in fear, and a hope that lights the darkest night. Ryan felt a strange warmth in his chest. But why me? He asked. I'm just an engineer. Jeria smiled gently. That is why. Ryan looked confused. You were kind to our workers. You spoke gently to our children. You helped without asking for reward. You lived with respect. She placed her hand over her heart. That is the heart we searched for. Ryan blinked. So, the visitors? Jeria nodded. They were my leaders, my soldiers, my thinkers, my people. She looked into his eyes. They came to see your heart, not your words. And now, they believe. Ryan felt silent for a moment. Then he spoke quietly. Believe in what? Jeria answered softly. In humans, in a bond between our worlds. A soft wind moved outside. Ryan whispered, You want an alliance? Jeria nodded. Yes, but not in war, not in trade. In trust. She stood slowly. An alliance of hearts. Friendship that no galaxy can break. Ryan stood too. I don't know if I'm worthy of that. Jeria smiled kindly. You already are, because you opened your door and your heart. For a long moment, they stood in quiet understanding. Then Jeria spoke gently. Tomorrow, I will announce our choice. Varelians will stand beside humanity. Ryan felt his heart fill with something he hadn't felt in years. Hope is... The matriarch walked toward the door. She turned back. Thank you, Ryan Carter. You did more than you know. And with a soft nod, she leapt into the night. Ryan stood at the door, watching the silver night sky. He whispered to himself. Was never just about me. It was about us all. The next morning, soft golden light touched the city of Varelia. The streets were quiet, but a feeling of change filled the air. Ryan Carter walked toward the great hall where the matriarch planned to make her announcement. All around him, looked at him with curious eyes. Some nodded politely, some gave him small smiles, but not everyone looked friendly. A group of tall Varelian soldiers in black armor stood near the gate, their sharp eyes following Ryan as he passed. Ryan felt a chill in his heart. Something was wrong. Inside the great hall, Matriarch Jeria stood on a high platform. Around her were leaders, scholars, soldiers, and many citizens. Ryan stood among them. Feeling both proud and nervous, Jeria raised her hand. A soft silence fell over the crowd. She spoke with a clear, calm voice. My people, we have lived in peace, but we have lived in fear. The galaxy is wide, and we cannot walk it alone. She paused and looked at Ryan. But now, we choose a new path. A path of trust, of friendship, with humanity. The crowd began to murmur. Some cheered. Some clapped softly, but not all. A loud voice echoed from the back. This is a mistake. All eyes turned to the voice. A tall, dark-armored Varelian stepped forward. His name was Commander Vecker, leader of a powerful faction of soldiers. He looked straight at the matriarch. Humans cannot be trusted. They're weak. They're liars. They will destroy us in the end. Jeria's face stayed calm. You speak your mind, Commander, but your words are wrong. Vecker pointed at Ryan. This one is only pretending. He fools you with soft words, but he will betray you. A wave of murmurs filled the hall. Ryan felt all eyes turn to him, took a slow breath, and stepped forward. I have never lied to you, he said clearly. I came to help, and I stayed because I believed in your people. Vecker's eyes burned. Then prove it, tonight. Jeria looked at Vecker with a calm but firm gaze. What do you mean? Vecker smiled coldly. Let me send one final visitor to him, a traveler, like the others. He turned to Ryan. Let us see if your heart is true, or if you are like every other human full of lies. The hall fell silent. Jeria's eyes met Ryan's. She gave a small nod, as if asking, "Are you ready?" Ryan felt the weight of every eye upon him. He nodded firmly. "I will open my door, as I always have." That night, Ryan waited by his door, but this time his heart beat faster than ever before. He knew this visitor would not come for peace. This visitor was a test, or a trap. At exactly 8 o'clock, the knock came. Ryan stood up and opened the door. Varelian stood outside, wearing simple traveler's clothes. But his eyes were sharp, cold, and watching. "I am a traveler," the man said. "May I come in?" Ryan stepped aside. "Yes, you are welcome." The visitor entered and sat down slowly. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he asked quietly, "Why do you open your door every night?" Ryan answered calmly, "Because I was asked, and because I believe in trust." The visitor gave a small, cold smile. "Do you believe everyone deserves trust?" Ryan looked into the man's eyes. "I believe trust is given, and sometimes earned." The visitor leaned forward, "And if I told you, came to harm you?" Ryan stayed still. "Then I would still listen, because even in anger, there is a reason, and maybe a chance for peace." The visitor stared at Ryan for a long moment. Then his eyes softened, just a little. "You are not what I expected." Ryan gave a soft smile. "I am just a human, standing by an open door." Slowly the visitor stood. "I was sent to break you, to prove you were false." He took a slow breath. "But I see now. You are honest. You welcome even those who may not wish you well." The visitor bowed lightly. "I will tell them. Oh, you are true." And quietly he left. Ryan sat down, his heart finally steady. He had opened his door and his heart again, and this time, even his enemy saw the truth. Morning came with soft golden light across the land of Varelia. The air felt fresh, and the sky was clear. But inside the great hall of the matriarch, the air was heavy with waiting. Varelian leaders, soldiers, and citizens gathered in silence. Their eyes turned to the front, where matriarch Jeria stood tall. At her side stood Ryan Carter, calm and ready. The hall was full of whispers. Some still doubted him. Some believed in him, but all waited for the matriarch's word. Jeria raised her hand and the hall became silent. She looked around, her eyes calm and strong. "Last night a visitor was sent to test the heart of a human," she began. Her voice echoed softly through the hall. "This visitor came not with questions, but with doubt. Not with friendship, but with a hidden plan." She paused, letting her words sink in. And yet, Ryan Carter opened his door. The crowd whispered again, surprised and curious. Jeria continued. He welcomed the visitor, with trust, with peace, with the belief that even hearts filled with doubt can change. She looked at Ryan with a soft smile. And they did. At the back of the hall, Commander Vecker stood with crossed arms, but even his sharp eyes lowered slightly, showing a quiet respect. Jeria raised her voice gently. Ryan Carter proved that a single human heart can carry hope strong enough to reach even the hardest soul. She turned to the crowd, and that is why. Today, we choose friendship with humanity. The hall filled with soft gasps. Then a wave of clapping started, soft at first, then louder. The leaders clapped. The citizens clapped. Even the soldiers clapped. Ryan stood still, feeling a warmth rise in his chest. Jeria stepped closer to him. "You opened your door, Ryan, and in doing so, you opened ours." She held out her hand. Ryan took it firmly. At that moment, two worlds became friends. Later that day, a great gathering took place in the city square. Varelians and humans stood side by side. Flags of both worlds waved together. In the soft breeze, children laughed. Leaders smiled. Soldiers stood with pride. Ryan stood among them, not as a visitor, but as a friend. One by one, the visitors who had come to Ryan's door came forward. Thalon, the scholar, gave him a rare book from the Varelian archives. "You taught us that knowledge is not just words, but feeling," Thalon said kindly. Sira, the soldier, offered him a small badge of honor. "You showed us that courage means opening your heart, not just fighting battles, she said with respect. Kale the merchant gave him a simple golden coin for teaching us that trust is the greatest trait of all, Kale said with a smile. Zara the pilot offered him a pair of flight gloves. You reminded us that dreams can fly. When shared, Zara said gently. Dren, the farmer, gave him a small bag of Varelian seeds. For showing us that care for others is like planting hope, Dren said kindly. Lyra, the artist, handed him a painting, a door standing open under a shining sky, for proving that even strangers can be friends, Lyra said with soft eyes. And finally, the last visitor, the one sent by Vecker, stepped forward. He placed his hand on Ryan's shoulder. You opened your door. Even to me, the man said quietly. I will never forget that. Ryan looked around at all of them, once strangers, now friends. He smiled, his heart full. That night, as the stars filled the sky, Ryan sat by his door once more. No knock came, because now there was no need. The door was open, always. And, in his heart, Ryan knew this was how peace begins. One open door, one honest heart, one lasting friendship.